Distinguished delegates, collective bargaining is a pillar of a just society. Without it, working people are left defenseless, exposed to the full force of markets with no shield, no say, no real power. Convention 98 is clear. Governments must actively promote collective bargaining. Yet, as our sister organization, the ITUC's Global Index highlights, there's a troubling erosion of collective bargaining coverage in Europe, now with fewer than half of all workers covered in many countries. The ILO has ruled that promotion requires positive action, creating legal frameworks, removing obstacles, and fostering an environment where collective bargaining can flourish. When governments fail to promote collective bargaining, they abandon their fundamental duty to ensure that workers have a real say. When member states prioritize individual contracts over collective agreements, they weaken trade union rights. When they refuse trade union demands to extend collective agreements to sectors, they violate their obligations. When member states claim doing nothing is neutrality in industrial relations systems, they are in fact actively favoring non-union companies, because these businesses gain unfair advantage through lower labor costs, weaker protections, and often they're subsidized through public procurement and are chosen for those contracts. Member states can act effectively and decisively to remove obstacles. For example, public procurement rules can promote collective bargaining, end exploitation, limit subcontracting chains, and ensure fair competition so that companies with a collective agreement do not lose out to competitors with low wages, cutthroat conditions based on union busting. Promoting collective bargaining is at the heart of the 2022 Minimum Wage Directive adopted by the European Union. But that directive is currently challenged in front of the European Court of Justice. That court must also respect ILO conventions when it interprets EU law, rather than continuing to put economic freedoms in front of and above fundamental labour rights. This means the courts must change course and recognise, as the ILO conventions provide, that collective bargaining cannot be labelled as an unlawful barrier to trade or an illegal barrier to competition. And the EU institutions can't come to this House and claim commitment to decent work if their highest court systematically weakens the very mechanisms that underpin it. But let's be clear, the primary obligation for promotion rests with member states. They must provide institutional support and reverse the decline. In the EU, this means working with social partners to put in place action plans to reach the target of at least 80% of the workforce covered by a collective agreement. Delegates, collective bargaining transforms individual vulnerability into collective strength through solidarity. It is the ILO vision realized, with workers united across borders, industries, and across our differences. Decent work emerges when people stand together in dignity and mutual support. Countries that meet their obligations to promote collective bargaining will build more cohesive, successful societies and economies. And the EU Quality Jobs Roadmap at the end of this year must be based on guaranteeing the fundamental right to collective bargaining. A quality job doesn't exist if workers are refused the right to collective bargaining. As the Director General rightly refers in his report, turbulent times and persistent inequalities need institutions that ensure workers have a real say in shaping change. Those that fail to do that will leave their workers vulnerable and their democracies weakened. The obligations are clear. The time to promote collective bargaining is now. Thank you.